Hey folks, everything new under the sun. Well, I had to do a video about this one. This is a new one coming from Zero Hedge. Putin, if attacked, Russia will respond with new unstoppable nukes. What do they have in the wings? What are they getting ready for? We know the Bible speaks of potentially a nuclear disaster. We know Damascus will be destroyed, and it will be uninhabitable. The words, the description of how it's destroyed suggests that there's a nuclear weapon that's dropped, a tactical nuclear weapon, something that causes maybe even radiation, where people will not want to live there anymore. And so it describes that sort of event. We also know in the Bible an event described where Israel is marking out dead bodies on the battlefield, and they're burning weapons for 7 years. They're burning them for fuel. They're not cutting down trees anymore. And it speaks to a massive, a nuclear strike of some sort. And so the references to nuclear weapons being used in these last days is kind of, you read between the lines, you look at the description of the destruction in the Bible, and you can see these things pointing to the use of nuclear weapons. Well, a day after a foreign minister accused the U.S. of violating the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, President Vladimir Putin shocked his audience during an annual State of the Union address to his country's political elite by claiming Russia had developed new nuclear weapons that cannot be shot down by U.S. anti-ballistic missile defenses. So this is an escalation in the war of nuclear weapons. Putin said these missiles are capable of striking almost any point on Earth. Russia is testing the new line of strategic nuclear-capable weapons. So if you think the arms race was stopped, then you'd be mistaken. The president said, as he showed video and animation of Russian ICBMs, the cruise missiles and other weapons that he said have been developed by Russia as a result of the U.S. pulling out of the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty. And they were working on these before that. This is just a good excuse to come out and say it. In what sounded like an implicit threat, Putin said Russia had repeatedly warned Washington not to go ahead with anti-missile systems that Moscow fears could erode its nuclear deterrent. However, nobody listened to us. Listen now, Putin says. This sounds to me like an overt, unveiled threat to the U.S. and over nuclear weapons. Could it be a nuclear weapon that takes the United States out of the end-time Bible prophecy, out of world superpower status, out of the ability to actually support Israel in the end times? Does Russia know this, and do they do a preemptive strike on the United States or the North America to take them out of the picture so that when they march on Israel, it's easier in their thoughts? And maybe this is why God does indeed have to march down and take care of them in Gog Magog. It goes on, while he stressed that Russia isn't threatening anybody, it sounds like he just did though, he asserted that if attacked, Russia wouldn't hesitate to respond with a nuclear strike. Per The Guardian, the Russian president's remarks risk sparking an arms race between Russian Federation and the U.S., reminiscent of the U.S.-Soviet arms race during the Cold War. Our nuclear doctrine says Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons only in response to a nuclear attack or an attack with other weapons of mass destruction. And I think Russia is not stupid. I think Putin is not stupid. He's not going to do something that's going to cause the mutual destruction of his nation because the U.S. has enough weapons, nuclear weapons in submarines and other launch sites. That's the whole mutual destruction idea, where if one country launches it, there's enough time and enough spread out nuclear weapons that all the other countries could shoot each other, basically, and destroy everybody. So Putin's not stupid, but tactical nukes is certainly, I think, an option. And I think tactical nukes, I think the Bible does describe instances of tactical nukes being used. I think it's in Zechariah where it speaks about flesh being, burned off the body. Let me see if I can pull up the Zechariah reference here. Zechariah, nuclear Bible verse. Let's see if I can find this one. I'm sure Google will know where this one is here. Zechariah 14:12. Let's see if this is the correct one here, and I will pull it up. Yes, this is it. This is definitely it. Zechariah 14:12. And Zechariah is a very prophetic, very prophetic book. So in verse 14 here, excuse me. No, sorry, verse 12. And this plague shall be, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So this is speaking of enemies coming on Israel, and men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the people who fought against Jerusalem. And this speaks of a thermonuclear warhead, non-atomic bomb. The name is escaping me. Maybe it is a thermonuclear warhead anyways, where the results of such are that it doesn't wipe out buildings, it doesn't wipe out physical objects, but it actually, the heat and the radiation actually burns the skin off human beings. It kills human and animals. The flesh shall consume away while they stand on their feet. So that's significant. That's a very fast reaction. It's a very thing. This is something that's happening very fast. It sounds like the blast of a thermonuclear warhead. And that consumes them away so fast while they're still standing on their feet, and their eyes are consumed away in the eye sockets, and the tongue's consumed away in the mouth, all while standing. So that's a great heat from a nuclear weapon, or a thermonuclear weapon there that it describes. So this is significant. It goes on. It is my duty to state this. Whoops, I didn't show you the verse, did I? Did I show you? Oh yeah, I guess I did show you the verse. Okay. It is my duty to state this: any use of nuclear weapons against Russia or allies, be it small scale, medium scale, or any other scale, will be treated as a nuclear attack on the country. So, and of course, he's running for a fourth term in Russia. You know, there's no democratic elections there. They keep poisoning the runners and making it illegal for the other people who want to become voted into power, who want to become president. They make it illegal for them. There's one guy specifically who they keep basically putting in jail so that he can't be voted in. But there you go. Russia will respond with nuclear weapons, and apparently they have unstoppable nuclear weapons. And there are references in the Bible from Zechariah and some indications from some other verses as well, where, like I say, they're burning the weapons from the war for 7 years. It sounds like nuclear. It sounds like they're using some of the nuclear components of these weapons of wars. These things are very significant in end-time Bible prophecy and spoken of in Zechariah fairly clearly. I think you would agree. Speaking of describing the way the weapon affects humans. And then you have, of course, the other verses in the Bible speaking of the weapons being burned for 7 years, etc. So this is a significant rhetoric, a significant escalation in the war of words, and the suggestion that Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons and that the arms race is proceeding right now. Also significant is that U.S. is taken out of Bible prophecy. They don't exist there. So could they be taken out by a nuclear weapon? By a barrage from Russia? Do they know how to get around the threat of mutual destruction? Do they know how to get around it with their missile defenses? And could they destroy U.S. without U.S. being able to respond? That is one of the possibilities. The Bible doesn't say what happens. I kind of still think it's still a worldwide economic collapse that occurs, but there could be a nuclear weapon and be involved here as well. And that's why in the march to Israel by Gog Magog, the hooks in the jaw. That's why the young lions of Tarshish are just saying, have you come to take a spoil? And they're just saying words, but they're not actually coming to Israel's defense in these last days. So thanks for watching. I'll put this link in the description of this article. Lord's return is coming near. He is coming soon. And so get ready. Do you know the Lord Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior? He died about 2,000 years ago for my sin and your sin. He's coming back soon. We are nearing the end of the year of 6,000 years of man on earth. That the last 2,000 years, I believe, started with the death of Christ, which happened at about 28 years after the Gregorian calendar started. The Gregorian calendar started about 4 years after the actual birth of Christ. So it wasn't dated correctly, and so the end of 6,000 years is about the year 2028. And so we know the 7-year tribulation has to start sometime prior to that, 7 years prior to that. So we know, so we have a good indication that the 7-year tribulation will start in the year 2021. And therefore, we expect, if that is accurate, we expect things to go downhill very fast over the next 3 years. Trump is in power right now. Could something happen to Trump to really shift the world stage? We see all the countries getting ready for Gog and Magog. We see them lining up. We see them starting to battle with Israel already. We see nuclear threats because we know nuclear weapons are described in the Bible in Zechariah and other passages. So we know that there's advanced nuclear weapons in that time. And we're getting very close. We also see the morality. You watch my last video about Sodom and Gomorrah. And you can see that we are raising a generation where God has to say, this is it. This is a red line. I'm not going to let the planet get any more evil. I am a just God, and I need to deal with the sin in the world, just like he did in the flood of Noah. So he's going to come back soon, and I think there's some timelines that can't go on forever anymore. Like J.D. Varrick likes to say, they're events happening that have a shelf life. They can't go on forever. The existence of Israel as a nation, the battles that are going on in Syria, these have shelf lives. It's not as if next year Iran's going to say, "Oh, okay, forget it. We've made a peace deal with Israel. We're going to go home. We're going to remove our troops." No, these have a timeline to them. These have an expiry date to the things occurring, but it's building up to a point, and it's building up, I think, to where we are getting to a place where the 7-year tribulation could start, because we know a peace deal comes in, and a one world government and an antichrist comes in and says, peace, peace, and brings in a false peace upon the world, which suggests that the world is chaotic and in some form of war prior to that. We know there's some big biblical battles that are going to come and basically trigger the world to accept a world leader and a one world government. And these are the battles that will be happening over the next 2 to 3 years. So get right with Jesus. He's coming back soon. The world's going to get really bad before it's going to get any better. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.